Welcome to the show, Shweta. So
Thanks,
it's so
Shalja.
good to have you here today with us.
Thanks. It's really wonderful being here today.
Everybody knows Shweta Bhatia, the nutritionist, the fitness and health expert.
Do they?
We
Okay.
want to know the story behind who Shweta is from the past. How did she find her mojo? Were there any trigger points? Where it all started for you?
Right. So I think let me just begin with my childhood, Shalja. I was a really scrawny and a skinny child throughout my schooling years and with no interest whatsoever in physical activities. I was actually a bookworm and always academically inclined, getting the best grades in school. And I think at that point, there was also a lack of awareness in terms of physical fitness for children. And I had two older siblings who were completely inclined towards sports and athletics.
Okay.
And my parents actually had a tough time, kind of disciplining them into studying. So when they saw me, really inclined towards academics, they're like, please isko padne do. Don't distract her. So I guess that's how the entire my childhood went by, just studying and just getting good grades, but with no physical activity. And I really kind of regret that because I missed out on my golden peak, which is actually your adolescent years, where
Yeah.
you can actually develop yourself physically, and prepare yourself for adulthood. And all the medical complications and all the health issues that can come in adulthood can be actually averted if you
Right.
take care of yourself in those years.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I missed that. And then I actually wanted to be a doctor after I finished school and I joined college. But I didn't have the grades to join medical school. So then I said, okay, let me opt out for nutrition.
Okay.
So honestly, it wasn't my calling then. But looking back, I think I have no regrets again. I think this is my calling because as a nutritionist, I get the opportunity to work both in the preventive and the curative space. And I think it really works well for me. I don't have any regrets not being a doctor today. So that's how I got into being a dietitian and I started my practice, but I was still not that, keenly invested in my physical fitness. Like I used to exercise, but never really in the right balance as I do today. But then I happened to kind of attend Mr. Kaizad Kapadia's seminar. He's one of the pioneers of fitness in India. And then I happened to join one of his facilities,
Okay.
his gym. And that's when I actually realized what weight training is all about.
Okay.
And that was a complete, game changer for me because I developed so much confidence when I started building my body in terms of my muscular fitness. And I was no longer that scrawny child, So I saw the metamorphosis happen at that point.
Wow. How much
And
time did it take?
I think so. I think it took me around from 2009 to about 7-8 years
7,
to
8
actually see
years.
those results on my body.
And you were working on yourself, or you had a
Yeah,
support?
so obviously I was following a diet because I was
Sure.
already a dietitian by then. But like I said, since I wasn't taking my training seriously,
Yeah.
it wasn't showing the result.
Okay.
So, but when I actually combined both, I realized that I'm on the right path now, and I
Sure.
should have done this much earlier.
Sure.
And I wanted to give that benefit of that integration to my patients and my clients. And that's when I integrated the whole exercise aspect into my practice. And I started working with a team of consultants who would then, plan the workout part for my clients.
Sure.
But then it didn't stop there. Down the line, I also had to face a few, challenges in life, and it did take a toll on my mental health. That's when I reached out for mental health counseling, and I also realized then, through my own experience, that it's the third tool, right, that has to be integrated into your practice if
Okay.
you really want a 360-degree approach and a good outcome for your patients and
Right.
clients, which is mental health. So then we integrated the mental health, the physical fitness, and the nutrition together, and that's where Mind Your Fitness is today. That's how it came into being, and
Sure.
that's where I am
Sure.
today.
So three very core pillars, which is physical, food, and your mental health.
Yes.
And that amazing journey, because you applied it on yourself first.
That's right.
And that led to another, one thing led to another.
That's right. Because I can do it with a lot more conviction today since
Yes.
I have experienced it
journey.
personally, and
Yeah.
I've come out shining very well with that
Wonderful,
approach.
wonderful, absolutely shining well. You've been a bodybuilder, you still are, and you have won many awards. What's interesting is that you took it that far to get into an intense sport like that. That's really, really strenuous and rigorous for somebody looking from outside. You want to
So
talk about
I
it?
don't know whether this is the good part or the bad part, but I still get perceived as a trainer today. And, I probably don't fit into the regular ideas of what people perceive as a nutritionist should look like or be. So the thing is that, like I told you, when I started training, I started getting so invested in my physical fitness that I actually started building my body.
Yeah.
And that whole bodybuilding thing was actually a fluke because I went to cheer one of my friends who was participating in a championship.
Okay.
And she said that in the women's category, there are hardly any participants who just kind of step on stage for the fun of it because it was one of the events that were leading to the final
Okay.
event. It was like the selection
Yeah.
event. So I'm like, are you crazy? I don't know anything about bodybuilding and posing. And but the point is that I was already so well built by then
Yeah.
that there was scope for me to step on stage.
Wow.
And I literally went to the market and picked up a two-piece and I put it on and I went on stage and I
How
posed.
old were you then?
I was 38.
Wow.
I was 38.
Amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, there I was, and I kind of qualified for the finals. And I'm like, really? Okay. So then I went. Then obviously I took a little time to prepare for the final event, and I won bronze medals at the state and national level.
Wonderful.
But having said that, for me, aesthetics is just, it doesn't end at aesthetics because I always believe that if you are fit, you will look good.
Yeah.
But if you're looking good, you may not necessarily be fit.
Yes.
And so when bodybuilding didn't bring in the performance part for me in, I kind of got put off with the whole skin show. And I'm like, I don't think this is for me. So I stepped down and I actually didn't compete after that. So it was just those two competitions. But yes, there was a huge learning. And people started taking me more seriously because of, where I was with my own body. And I think it really worked well for me. It
People
was a learning
absolutely
experience.
started taking you seriously with a lot of celebrities you have coached after that, trained them, also athletes. You want to talk about a few? Like Surya Kumar, perhaps?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, out of all the celebrities that I've worked with, I would like to specifically mention about Surya's because, and athletes, yeah, because, like I said, I always look at the performance angle. So if I'm working with a client, I'm looking at a transformation not just at the physical level, but what I've actually done on a 360-degree level. So that is mental, physical health, all of that put together. And how much have I been able to rehab them or bring them from, on the continuum of illness to wellness and then fitness.
Okay.
So with Surya, he obviously was an athlete and he was, into cricket by the time he came to me for his sports nutrition consulting. And we've had an amazing journey because, the whole foundation is based on trust and mutual respect, which we've developed over a period of time and which should actually be like that between a mentor and a client. And I think that synergy just really worked well because I get very satisfied with the kind of work that I do with him. And of course, he's shining and going great guns because what he's achieved in his 30s, he's never done that in his younger days.
Absolutely.
So that's a big achievement for me and a personal achievement for him.
So it's an ongoing training currently as well.
Yeah, he's with me for his sports nutrition consultations.
Okay.
Of course, he works with his own team for his exercise routine and his strength and conditioning and his cricket skills.
Sure.
So he's primarily with me for his diet program.
Okay. Interesting. So on a serious note, India is impacted by diabetes and cardiac issues. I mean, these are the top two. We read about it. We see people around us, the moment they hit their 40s, 50s, type 2 diabetes and mostly post-COVID, a lot of cardiac issues have emerged. So is there anything to do with our diet or our lifestyle or outlook towards life, which is leading to this?
100% with our diet because, I'll just share something really funny with you, Shalja. Whenever I sit for an assessment with my client, and when I ask them, "Aap kya khate ho?" Right? Because we take a recall of their 24-hour or 1 week recall of their food. So the answer is simple, ghar ka khana. Oily, fatty, to kuch nahi khate hain.
Achha.
So then why are we having this conversation?
Yeah.
If that was your solution, then where is this problem arising from? So the point is that we have actually switched fat, moved fat out of our plates and put the grains in. And that is exactly why this whole diabesity, as I call it, epidemic is actually taking over not just India but the globe globally, and India is the diabetes capital of the
Yeah.
world. And it's pretty sad because you said 40 and 50. I've actually dealt with a 4-year-old child who has type 2, borderline type 2
Oh
diabetes.
my.
And we found that accidentally because she had actually come to me for her history of constipation. And when I ran the test, I realized that her sugar levels also were borderline. And she
Okay.
has a strong history of diabetes in the family.
Okay.
So, anyways, we caught it well in time and now she's doing well. But the point is that what exactly is on our plate that is, making us go this route or is driving this whole, the diabetes pandemic, like I call it. Um, I think in the last 50 years, we've been pretty conscious about the oil that we use because everyone's talking about low fat and low calorie.
Yeah.
But low fat means it's being replaced with something else.
Yeah.
And let's face it, it's the carbohydrates that become glucose. That finally becomes your trigger point or your stimulus for becoming diabetic. That is what gets converted into fat in the body. So I'm not saying that fat is not going to make you fat, but when you replace carbohydrates with fat, then fat burns fat.
Got it.
But we haven't understood that concept because India primarily is a carbohydrate, a country which is where the native diets are carbohydrate dominant.
Is it because of the vegetarianism?
Partly, yes, but also because of the social media messages and because of our social conditioning. Because just we've been born and brought up eating that food doesn't mean it's the right food for us today. Like I said, I was scrawny and skinny as a child, and my diet was carbohydrate based.
Yeah. That's a statement to make, right? कि घर का खाना जरूरी नहीं है कि ठीक हो. Because we don't have that information.
Right. And let's face it, we call food, like, let food be thy medicine, but it is not being treated as your medicine. It's being abused as a comfort thing or something for your entertainment. And the day we actually start thinking about it as medicine, our lives will really change for the better, and we'll see less of these diseases on the rise.
Interesting.
So yes, coming back to your question, yes, the diet has a huge role to play, and that's because our diets are primarily carbohydrate based.
Right. The moment you're talking about it, I can see all visuals of all carbohydrate foods from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and there are different versions of it. But you're right. I mean, India is just full of it, right? Largely, and vegetarians don't have much option, and that's another topic altogether. But what about keto diet and low carb diets, and the entire thing about gaining muscle, losing muscle, and we know people around us who go on these diet plans. And then they come back with the same weight gain again once they stop that diet. So what's really going on?
See, it's very simple logic, but I don't think that people understand what they're doing. So I will explain about keto and low carb in terms of fat loss and muscle gain separately. But in terms of regaining that weight, now if you have taken a route to go to Andheri, and now you're taking another route to come back from Andheri, you're not going to be in Andheri. You're going to come back to where you were. Because you've taken another route or you reversed that route. So if, for example, you removed carbs from your diet and that caused your body fat to go down, then what makes you think that by adding the carbs back, your body fat will continue to remain low?
So because the fundamental change has to
That's
continue.
Right. So you don't do a diet for weight loss. You have to understand that the diet has to be sustained on the long term. Now, like I said, because of the social media messages and a lot of other influencers and even a few doctors who say that the keto diet is bad, I'm saying that they're coming from a space of low awareness or less knowledge because it is a scientific approach.
Right.
Our bodies have been making ketones all throughout. It's not, the science is not new. But what I'm saying is that now we are using that science to our advantage by looking at it from a different perspective.
Okay.
So it is not unnatural. It's a very natural process. But yes, having said that, any diet for that matter that you follow should be a prescription which is charted out based on your requirements by a professional, and you should be guided through that plan. Your blood reports need to be checked at regular intervals to see where they stand. If something is going haywire, then the consultant should have the know-how of how to adjust the diet and make those changes. Yes, also the consultant should be able to guide you with choices, because if you want to make it into a lifestyle change, then you need to have variety in your diet. So all of that requires a professional perspective, and I think that's where people go wrong. They don't really go through guidance. They just pull out diets from the internet and then say this is not working.
And that's not
for
the
me.
right way to go.
That's right.
And so you need a proper support structure around you when you're going on these diet plans.
Absolutely. See, it's very comforting. It's like your default safety mechanism, right? Whatever you've learned till now, that carbs are required for energy.
Yeah.
Then घर का खाना खाओ, then seasonal local खाओ.
हाँ.
Seasonal local आप खाओगे, but फिर आप जा रहे हो lab में to test your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Now that lab in Kanyakumari or Kashmir is still going to show you elevated blood sugar. Now whether you've eaten risotto or you've eaten khichdi or you've eteen dhokla.
Correct. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. And the other point is, the sad point is that Indians don't even know where carbs come from. So my education literally starts from not A, but I don't know if there's anything below A. But I'm just trying to make people more aware where carbs come from. And that's how, that's where the learning begins. So it doesn't matter whether you've eaten a banana or paratha or khichdi, your body is making it all into glucose.
Right.
When you go and test that glucose in a laboratory, it'll either be high or low based on whether you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes.
Right.
It's as simple as
Right.
that. It's a final chemical structure that is all carbs get broken down into.
Yeah.
But because we are so, we want to hold on to our beliefs and we belief systems, and we don't want to change because, it's like a cranial crunch. Whenever we have this the tendency to shut out things when they don't concur with our existing belief systems. We want to throw it out. We don't want to accept it because it's just easy and comfortable being with the old systems. And a lot of consultants also don't promote the diet for one reason, I think, is because they themselves are not understood the science. And if somebody's cholesterol goes up, or the uric acid goes up, or for whatever reason anything else happens on the diet, then they're not able to answer and explain that these are not unfavorable changes, or we can modify it to accommodate this. So I think there is a lack of knowledge in that space. That's the reason most consultants also don't promote the diet, is because they themselves don't know how to manage the diet.
Right. Women these days are becoming mothers at a very late age, right? That's what the stats tell us.
Right.
But to regain their health as good as when before pregnancy, it takes a while. Are there any health tips for them?
So the only tip that I would give a woman is to plan your pregnancy if it's a late pregnancy, because you just can't go into pregnancy saying that I want to be pregnant, so I'm going to be pregnant.
Okay.
Let's understand that there are a whole lot of hormonal changes occurring in a woman's body, not only as she ages, but pregnancy brings its own. So we need to be completely prepared physically before we take on that journey. So coming back to fitness is the other aspect, but I am saying that before you get into you need to be in sound health. So please make it a planned activity if it is, you're post 35, because there's a whole lot of things that you can do better and have a better pregnancy outcome, have a better, in terms of your child's health also, the risks that your child can have if you have pregnancy outcomes. So, pregnancy complications. So all of that can be avoided if you plan this well. And of course, if you have a smooth journey through your pregnancy, which is you eat well and you exercise well, because that again should be done under supervision. You shouldn't be doing things on your own. Then it's easier to bounce back.
Okay.
And let's say that, you didn't have a smooth journey or you've gained a lot of weight, then yes, post your pregnancy, you definitely have to start working hard on bringing that down, but not at the cost of having less milk production or affecting, your milk supply and things like that. So again, I think a professional will be required to manage you through those phases. But yes, before you plan and during, exercise and diet will play a very big role.
And do you have training modules for this?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, while you mentioned IVF, let me tell you that we've had this one case where she had 3 failed IVFs.
Okay.
And she got on the plan and then she got naturally pregnant.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So that itself shows the power of, your nutrition. She wasn't exercising, but the power of nutrition, how it can really change things for the better. And now she's maintaining well on the plan, but she's also exercising now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we see a lot of your videos on social media, right? So there is lots going on inside the gym, and that's really motivating. But what about people who can't go to gym at all because of spinal injuries or knee issues? What is your advice to them?
Right. So I'll give you a case of one of our patients who's on dialysis. He also exercises.
Okay.
So coming to spinal injuries and knee issues, I think they're really minor issues.
Okay.
But yes, a modified exercise plan has to be given to such people. You will have to be under the supervision of an expert who deals with those conditions. So in my team, we do have a set of physiotherapists who can handle that and then guide you. Basically, what we're looking at is just not to rehab you, but to identify the cause of why you had a slip disc. Why did you injure your knee? To identify that and to take those corrective steps once you begin your exercise schedule.
Okay.
So there is a part which is physiotherapy, which is passive rehab. Then there is an active rehab where you're bridging the gap between going back to your full-fledged exercise program and coming out of your injury. And at that phase, we also have to start tackling the cause of why you had that
Okay.
injury.
Okay.
Now, let's say it's posture, or let's say it was an accident, or whatever else, or poor
Yeah.
nutrition, or over exercising, whatever is the cause, or biomechanics. We will then identify that and include those preventive measures in your rehab plan through that phase, and then make sure you go back to the gym and start exercising so that you
Finally.
don't have another recurrence of that
Okay.
condition.
So there's no fear of gym. It's essentially to do with your approach, perhaps,
Correct.
right?
It's not just the gym, right? You can even work out at home. You can do multiple things. You don't really have to join a gym. Yes, I work out in a gym, and I think that is the best way you can progress, because you don't have to keep piling up weights in your house. And everybody has less space in their homes these days. Of course, if you have a full-fledged gym in your house, then please go ahead and use that. But there are a whole lot of other things that can be done, and I think that a professional can guide you through with that program
Sure.
to make sure you're not wasting time in doing the wrong
Sure,
things.
sure. You mentioned that the seriousness into fitness happened after 30s for you, right? Which also brings me to, the youngsters these days. They say we don't have time. In their 20s, they don't have time. They are overworked. They are stressed. But any tips for them? How do they maintain their goals? Is there anything which they can do to stay motivated?
So, Shelja, the thing is that when you fall sick, you'll find time to go to the hospital.
Absolutely, yes.
You will actually not have time to go to work.
Yes. Yeah.
So, my only tip here is that don't look at your lifestyle routines and your fitness regimes as something that is costing you time. It's actually saving you money, and it's making you more productive at your workspace. So, we can't trade that off. But yes, I do appreciate that we do live busy lives, and so do I. But there is a way to manage this, and again, like I'm bringing it back to a professional's guidance, because a professional can actually understand what your goals are, what your limitations are, how much time you have in a day, in a week, what kind of access you have either to a gym or to equipments and space, and then accordingly chart out a program that will be time effective, and it'll work well for you.
So you think maybe corporates can urge youngsters and motivate them?
Yeah.
Because I think self-motivation could be lacking there.
So motivation is always lacking when you're in health.
Yeah. When there's
Disease
lack of
motivates us. Disease motivates us. It's unfortunate that once you
Yes.
lose your health is when you value it more.
Yes.
But yes, a few of us have understood this well in time, and we are in the preventive phase of things. But whether it's corporates or whether it's an individual level, I think health is your individual responsibility. You don't have to tell, your boss doesn't have to work at you taking care of your health so that you can
Yeah.
be more productive at work. It's about your body.
Yeah.
So you have to take that step to invest a little bit in a week in both your nutrition and your exercise regime, so that you can be productive and healthy.
Right. Again, going back to the health, nutrition, and mental health, right? All go hand in hand.
Yes.
So it's not only about the physical muscles anymore. It's also mental muscle.
Correct.
And see, there are a lot of these diet plans and nutritionists if one goes to as well. They give custom plans, and when you go home, there is one bai who's doing everything in the house, and then you imagine like, how will I tell her to cook this separately for me? While she's cooking other stuff for the family. So how do we circumvent this challenge?
So again, I usually with my clients, what I do is I ask them upfront whether they have the resources.
Okay.
First of all, whether who's cooking the food, whether they have the time. And all our menus are based on making life easy for our clients. Because you are right about this fact that if I don't have the time to make something,
Yeah.
or there are 10 other things that are being made for the family and I can't eat from there, then what?
Yeah.
Of course, there are going to be, now, if you've come to me for a change, I can't let you eat what you were eating earlier. So there will be
Absolutely.
some amount of effort required from your end.
Sure.
But we can work together to make life easy and plan it in a manner that it doesn't become overwhelming for you. And finally, if I give you a plan that you can't follow, it's counterproductive.
Right.
So it's just a piece of paper.
Right.
So I do take extra efforts to kind of make my clients' life easy when I do understand that there are restrictions. But yes, it does help when the family is doing this together. So if
Yeah.
everyone's focused on that goal of being healthy, then they support each other, which works well. But then again, you have to understand this is your journey, And if your family is not supporting you 100%, like if they
Yeah.
want to eat French fries but you've been asked not to, then you'll have to figure out how to
Right.
manage that, because it is not good for you.
Right.
So you can't keep giving in to those occasions or temptations all the time, because it's not something that you should be doing.
I've seen you go shop, right? You pick up your vegetables and your fruits, and then you come, and then I've seen some cooking videos as well.
Right.
Is it true? Like you do your own cooking?
I can't cook to save my life.
Okay. Okay, but you did
But I
go
try.
shopping in those
See,
videos.
I try.
Okay.
So it's all about, walk the talk.
Okay.
And if I'm going to tell others to do it, yes, I should make some efforts to do it. So thankfully, I have a lot of help in the house, and he's been trained in how to make my food the way it's supposed to be made. But like I said, even if I didn't have that help, I think I would manage. You put me in any corner of the universe, I'll still manage my diet. I
Right.
never get overwhelmed with the holidays and trips abroad and occasions. I know I'm going to manage my plan because it's an auto mode
So
now.
you don't want that typical Indian fried in the kadhai for 3 hours, 2 hours cooked food. So you figured where your carbs and your protein and your vegetable, a combination balanced meal is coming on the plate from. So you'll manage it in any part of the country.
Correct.
World,
Because the
forget
other
country.
aspect, like you said, is the mental attachment to food.
Yes, it's huge.
I'm totally detached. Even though my life
Lovely.
depends on food,
Lovely.
it really doesn't depend on food.
Lovely.
I can eat the same thing 24/7 because I primarily eat to nourish my body. And over a period of time, I've reached that stage. And I feel it's a very empowering place to be, because food no longer controls you.
Lovely.
You control food.
Lovely.
And that's a journey. If you're willing to take that, it's going to take a lot out
That
of you.
resonates with me a lot. But
Yeah.
I'm challenged these days with my mom around. She's come to visit us, so I can see the contrast, right?
Right.
Like I was pretty much in this boat which you mentioned, and it's been a month that I have started thinking more about iska taste aisa hona chahiye, or this could be more fried or more
Right.
salty,
Right.
right? You're right. It's about the attachment to the food and the
Right.
type and the kind.
And I don't mean to say that I don't enjoy my food. I really
Yeah.
love eating because, and actually, I am so busy through the day that food really is not on my mind. So I personally follow the ketogenic diet, and of which I also do intermittent fasting. So my whole day is literally on one protein shake after my workout. And then my big meal comes in the night. So I'm on a 2 meal pattern. And when I sit down with that big meal at night, I'm really relishing and enjoying my food.
Okay.
And of course, I would like it to be tasty. I'm not saying that I'll eat like bland food, or I don't look out for variety.
Right.
But I'm not fussy to the extent that if I had to eat the same thing 3 days in a row, I'm going to kick up,
Okay.
stir up a chaos or something in the kitchen. I'm going to manage pretty well.
You think it gets easier being a non-vegetarian to manage your diet plan?
So yeah, being a non-vegetarian, there's definitely more variety in terms of your meats. But honestly, Shalja, when I started the diet about 15 years ago, it's almost 15 years, I guess, yeah. There weren't many options in the market available. So luckily, being a non-vegetarian worked for me because I did have a lot of options in my meats. But today, there are so many products available that a vegetarian can sail through the diet.
Okay.
And I've had a case where this vegetarian boy, he's 22 years old and he's lost about 75 kilos.
Wow.
And he still continues to sustain the diet, even after having lost that weight. So yeah, he's managed pretty well and he's pretty okay with
And
it.
he's good in terms of
Yeah,
energy
he
levels. and-
works out, he lifts good weights, he runs, he does everything.
Coming to this, what you just said, right? Is it important to have a combination of sports, strength training, stretching, cardio through the week? Or if you're doing yoga, that's enough? Or if you're just doing swimming 2-3 times a week, that's enough? Interesting you said that. Do you think a combination of sports, stretching, yoga, swimming perhaps is good in a week? Or just doing one activity is enough?
So, when we talk about fitness, there are 5 components.
Okay.
And they are basically it's muscular endurance, muscular strength, cardiovascular fitness, agility, and body composition.
Okay.
So, you have to be working on each of these to call yourself truly fit.
Okay.
So, that's how your exercise program becomes a prescription, which is, like you go to a doctor with a condition, they assess you and they tell you that you need to take Crocin 500 milligrams twice a day for 5 days.
Yeah.
And then come back if you're not well.
Yeah.
So literally like that, and like the diet plan, the exercise plan is also a prescription, which when the consultant analyzes, assesses your requirements and sees where you are, what your goals are, and then obviously looks at the availability and accessibility in terms of equipment and space and time, charts out a program for you, and tells you at what intensity you should be doing your weight training, your flexibility training, and all of those components which are integrated in a program. And then you do it for a period of time, say 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and you
Yeah.
come back and for an update, and then you move to the next level.
Okay.
So coming back to your question, yes, you need to have all those components covered,
Okay.
because you just can't keep doing yoga since it's not targeting the other aspects,
Yep.
right? So your weight training is targeting your musculoskeletal system, whereas cardio exercises are targeting the cardiovascular system. So yes, the human body is the same, but when we are not targeting all the systems optimally for our fitness.
Mm.
So we need to combine all of these elements together, and it of course has to be done in a balanced manner.
But in your experience, do you think people don't have the awareness
They
about
don't
this?
have the awareness, not at
No.
all.
They'll be like, अच्छा हम walk करते हैं 10,000 steps काफी है.
Oh my God, don't
और
get
क्या
me started
करेंगे?
on 10,000 steps now.
I didn't want to touch that, but
Oh my
yeah,
God,
now that we
raw
have,
nerve.
now that we have, what
The
do you
raw
think?
nerve. 10,000 steps is a marketing gimmick.
Yes.
Thank you. You're one of the few. I think you've seen my video.
I could have, but you know what I did? I got into the trap, and I'm like, ये रोज नहीं हो पाता. कभी 15 भी हो जाता है.
Right.
Sometimes it's 7, and I'm happy with that.
I don't do 10,000 steps
Okay.
in a day.
Okay.
Just for information.
Okay.
So step counting is activity, and activity is different from exercise. So exercise, the goal is creating a stimulus for adaptation so that your body becomes fitter,
Okay.
not smaller. We're not talking about weight loss goals here. We're
Understood.
talking about fitness, which
Understood.
means that Shelja is now going to be faster, stronger, fitter, more agile, or whatever else that she's trying to achieve through the exercise program.
Sure.
Activity is what you do when you're not exercising and you're not sleeping.
Okay.
So now if you go to the gym for an hour and cover all those 5 components of fitness that I mentioned, but you're not going to take enough steps through the day and walk around, take the stairs, or walk to your car or whatever else and other things that cover in that step count, then you're not active.
Understood.
Because you're sitting at the desk for about 8 to 10 hours.
Right. Which
Then
will be
you're exercising for
counterproductive.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you need both, but it cannot be
Compensatory.
interchanged. Yeah, you can't just replace one for the other.
Okay, some people take it as exercise. I must tell you that. We need you. Do you have tips for fitness for this summer? Anything specific you want to tell our listeners?
Okay, what if I tell you that I'm just going to give you one tip that's going to help you maintain your summer body
Please.
through winter
Please.
and the monsoon? So I think by now you understand that I don't look at aesthetics so much, Alja.
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, aesthetics is the bonus of being fit. So the only tip is that don't look at the short-term goals of summer, winter, shadi, Christmas, New Year's, because it's your health at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And when you're on a structured plan of your diet and your exercise integrated well together, and of course your mental health, then you're going to get the best of both worlds, which is being fit, healthy, and looking good. But yes, coming back to your question, I'm always, if you're looking at tips for weight loss, again, I'm not a big tips person because I don't know how tips work for anybody. It's all general advice and very generic advice. And exercise and diet plans don't work like that because, like I said, it's a
Yeah, it's a
prescription that should be
holistic approach.
customized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But just just to kind of throw one tip out there would obviously get the activity going
Okay.
yourself, because you need to move. Movement is medicine.
Yeah.
And I'm already a big advocate of the low carb and the ketogenic way of life.
Right.
So I feel like it's your literally a one-stop solution for a lot of problems, because I use that diet with great success across all my cases, whether it's a medical condition, whether it's sports nutrition. I've used it with great success. So
Right.
I'm completely sold on the science. And
Across medical ailments as well?
yeah, I've used it
Okay.
for type 1 diabetes. I've used it for Parkinson's, where the
Wow.
medication doses have gone down, the insulin doses have gone down.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's a big boon,
Mm.
which I feel like if people only understood how good the diet is, and it's not for weight loss really, that is again the bonus, then things would really change for us here in this
Right.
country.
Right. You spoke about mental fitness a while back. So physical fitness has a direct correlation with mental fitness, right?
Absolutely, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because if a person is not mentally fit, they can't move. And most of the times when you see that clients come to us, they want to sign up and they're very motivated in the beginning. The moment you give the plan, you will not see the compliance.
Mm.
So they're not able to stick to the plan. Then
Mm.
you understand that what's going on here? Because this person came to me with the intention of changing something, but that change not happening.
Right.
So then, yes, we need to understand if there are other stressors, other aspects that are being affected because there was an intention.
Hmm.
So, mental health obviously affects your physical capabilities,
Hmm.
and physical fitness, exercise per se, is the most underutilized antidepressant,
Wow.
in my opinion.
Okay.
It's literally medicine. And, you'll see a lot of my clients, they tell me that, Shweta, when we exercise, we can follow the diet better.
Oh.
So something to do with resilience, something to do with discipline. And of course, overall, it's a feel good thing.
Hmm.
You sleep better when you exercise. So a whole lot of things change when you move.
Hmm.
So it's really sad that people look at exercise as a means to just burn calories and lose weight.
Yeah.
It's so much
Very
more than
myopic
that. Yeah,
way
it's
of
so
looking at it.
myopic, and it's
Yeah.
really sad because you haven't really, explored
Yeah.
all the benefits that it can give you.
Yeah.
And actually, weight loss of all is the least.
Right. I think it's commendable what you're doing and on your YouTube channel, your podcast, your social media.
Thank you.
Because more and more content you create, I think you are sharing that knowledge, which is still not enough, in people's mind. They
Right.
know one aspect of health could be mental, could be emotional, could be physical, but not a holistic approach to
Right.
health, which is really, really good. My next question I really wanted to ask you was your relaxation techniques after a very hectic schedule, your gym training. How do you relax? How do you what's your downtime like?
So I'm big on meditation, Shalja.
Okay.
And it's really, really helped me a lot. I actually meditate twice a day. So my typical routine is, of course, I have my consultations in the morning. Then I go to the gym in the afternoon between 12 and 2. That's because that's the lean time for me. And I can focus on my fitness, without any distractions. Then I come back, I obviously have my protein, which is, like I said, I don't have lunch. So I do that protein shake and then I take a little rest. And that's my time when I meditate and recharge, because then I have another session of appointments that happen in the evening.
Okay.
And I work pretty late into the night because I work across time zones. So I finish at around 10:30, 11 sometimes in the
Okay.
night. So I wind up pretty late. And because of which, then again, my sleep cycle gets a little affected. But what I do is I try to maintain fixed timings of sleep and bedtime and wake up times. So at least that way it's a little regulated. And I definitely, one thing that has really worked for me is not being on a gadget
Okay.
an hour before sleeping.
Okay.
And I have my meditation practices on and my music on for an hour before I go to bed.
Okay.
So that I think really helps me a lot in recharge and
Do
keeps
you
my
follow
balance.
any techniques or any guided meditations? Or?
I follow guided meditation because by nature I'm a pretty an active thinker, and I can't really keep my mind to rest. And also because I work pretty late into the night, I'm pretty stimulated. So it's really difficult for me to just come down to baseline quickly because I work that late into the night. So yes, guided meditations work best for a person like me, and I follow that.
You're absolutely on the top of your game when it comes to having a holistic, wholesome approach to health, fitness. But do you think the share of voice of women in health and fitness is far lesser than what men have in social media?
No, not in terms of the space they share, but I think the way they're perceived maybe a little bit. But it also depends on how you've projected yourself and what space you're in. So
Okay.
to begin with, Shalja, I really want to point out about the qualifications of a healthcare professional who's a creator on social media. Number one is that the entry barrier is so low that everyone calls themselves a health coach,
Yeah.
including doctors.
Yeah.
Now, if you aren't formally trained in nutrition, you don't have a degree, you should not be talking about nutrition.
Yeah.
And just because you have transformed yourself, you don't have the expertise to guide others.
Right.
So, number one is who is a genuine creator in that space is something that even the audience should kind of be careful of, because in our country, I don't think anybody checks the credentials of a consultant before they engage one.
Yeah.
How do you know that that person is the right fit for you?
Yeah.
Just because they have a big following or they have trained celebs doesn't make them qualified to handle your case.
Right.
So number one is the message is that first figure out who's a genuine creator and who you want to follow, whose advice you need to follow for your goals and your life. And the second thing is now in terms of the style, like I said, the perception.
Yeah.
So I come across as a person who's very straight and matter of fact. For me, my social media is a platform to express myself and to create awareness. And if you look at my posts, they are actually categorized into 3 kinds of posts. One is exercise,
Yeah.
one is hardcore nutrition or some nutrition related topic, and the third would be more in terms of motivation or mental health or my
Yeah.
personal life or something that I'm sharing, but with a message.
Yeah.
So typically it's these 3 things. And my style is in the sense that since I'm very straight, I can't really bend too much and change my tonality just to impress or attract an audience,
Okay.
because it's just not a natural part of who I am.
Sure.
I'm a fun-loving person, and if you speak to people who know me personally, they will tell you that I have a great sense of humor,
Okay.
and I can literally keep you in splits.
Okay.
But when it comes to my subject, I become very serious because, as I mentioned, that we're dealing with health and clinical conditions, and this is not a topic to joke about. So my delivery style is very, very matter of fact and straight, and that's who I am. In terms of the other creators, then there are different perceptions. So, like I said, like when you also put up your pictures, say you're in a bikini or you're working out in
Yeah.
shorts. I think women get looked down upon, or you'll find some comments where they're speaking
Trolls.
about your body and they're not
Yeah.
looking at the content that you're trying to
Yeah.
put out there. But I feel I get kind of I can I don't get those kind of comments too much, because I think I've created that space where people know, because I'm very straight and matter of fact, I'm not at the receiving end of
Sure.
those comments.
Sure.
But yes, I do see that can happen with other creators, and it's all about how you put yourself out there
Yeah.
and the kind of image that you've created for
Yeah.
yourself. That's when the perception will change.
Right. Right.
So that's the only difference between male and female creators, because I think they can get away with not wearing a shirt and posing in the gym. But when a woman is in a sports bra and shorts, then she's going to be looked upon as like, okay, this is skin show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, I've come across that quite a bit, being a content, specialist myself. I mean, the kind of trolls which happen, the comment section, it's full. It's
Yeah.
really full.
So I think in the initial years, yes, I was also kind of pulled up for, she has a muscular body and things like that. But I think over a period of time, I've been able to change that perception, and people kind of appreciate that now, that part
Yeah.
of me. And I no longer get those kind of comments. So I think
Right.
I've done something right to change that perception. And when people don't come across saying that, oh, she's so muscular, she's so manly, I never get that anymore. In
Right.
fact, just recently I had put up a picture in a swimsuit, and the first comment that I got is, "You're looking stunning and you're, graceful as usual." So
So
that's
sweet.
really nice, and
Yeah.
it came from a man. So
Yeah.
I think that I'm setting the right impression
Right.
out there.
Right. So you've achieved so much, right, over the years, and you're very focused on your mission. Any more unstoppable goals ahead for you?
So the thing is that I don't plan too much, Shelja, because I'll tell you one of the reasons why I did have a breakdown a couple of years ago is because I think I was going way past what my capabilities
Okay.
were, and I didn't understand my limitations enough. So now I've changed my strategy. It's not to say that I'm not ambitious, but I'm very careful about how much I do in a year. I
Okay.
actually look at only 12 months now,
Okay.
and what I can achieve and fit into that.
Okay.
So I will just close in on 2 or 3 projects, and currently I'm working on a couple of things, which I don't want to disclose at the moment.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't really think about what's going to happen after 5 years, because I want to just make through this 1 year.
Right.
And depending on how I stand in the next 12 months in terms of my energy levels and what I've been able to achieve and my limitations, because I'm also perimenopausal,
Okay.
and there are a lot of changes that are happening in my body right now, which I didn't expect, because this decade, the 40 to 50 decade, is the worst, I think, for women. And we always thought menopause was the big deal. That's actually when your hormones stabilize.
Yeah.
So I have to appreciate that there is a limitation physically and mentally. I don't want to stress myself out to the point that I start hating my work.
Okay.
So I have a couple of things lined up for this year, but that's all I look at. I'm not looking at the next 5 years, or I don't want to say that I'm unstoppable.
Okay. See, you mentioned a very important topic which slipped my mind, which is menopause. You want to talk a little bit about it? What's your approach?
Right. So perimenopause is different for different women. And typically we're talking about the decade of the 40 to the 50
Yeah.
age group. So what happens is, see, let's look at the female cycle. When she's in her adolescent years, when your periods are just kicking in, that's when you see the hormones fluctuate.
Yeah.
Then through the reproductive years in your 20s and 30s, you're pretty stable.
Yeah.
Then you come into your 40s where the hormones start fluctuating
Yeah.
again. And 50s when it stabilizes.
Right.
So 50 is actually not the big deal. It's what you do in your 40s to 50s is what, 40 to 50s, what's going to dictate and what's going to be your health when you enter your next decade of 50
Okay.
to 60.
Okay.
So it's different for different people, is because a lot of women think that perimenopause or hormonal changes are got to do with your menstrual cycle. I'm telling you, literally, estrogen receptors are there in every corner of your body. Be it your brain, your digestive system, your joints, your nervous system, and everything takes a hit.
Wow.
And it depends on how badly you're suffering. But let me tell you that my clients who follow the diet and the exercise structured programs to the T, they don't face so many issues. And even where I am with my own health today, I think I'm managing fairly well.
Right. Are women aware?
No, they are not.
And they don't talk about
unfortunately.
it, right?
No, they don't. Because they feel that, the fatigue could be because I'm overworked or I'm not slept enough. But even if that's the reason, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Because women don't actually, I mean, they really, they're always at the receiving end of things.
Yeah.
And they want to multitask.
Yeah.
And let me put it very bluntly that I don't know how much our bodies are designed to be at par with men, in terms of achieving everything. Like if you look at a man's life, typically, what he has to do is if he earns money and he goes to work and he comes back, he's successful.
Yeah. But it's
But
not
the woman has
same.
to go to work, then she has to come back, then she has to look after her husband, her in-laws, her parents, her children. She has to
It doesn't
balance her
end.
own health.
It doesn't end. Yeah.
Right? Then she
Yeah.
has to balance the home and things like that. So there's multiple things on her
Absolutely.
plate. And were we designed to handle so many things together? And yeah, there might be women who are acing it. And there's nothing wrong in being able to manage all of that.
Yeah.
But when it starts taking a toll on your health, you really need to step back and check whether you have the physical capability to achieve that.
Yeah.
That's the reason I said that when I say I'm not unstoppable, I didn't mean to say that I'm not ambitious.
Right.
But I'm very well aware of my limitations and I'm going to work within that and achieve the best I can do with given those conditions in my
Nice.
life today.
Nice.
So I think that's a more balanced way of looking at things.
Right.
And if I feel, or any woman at some time feels that, I'd rather give time to my work, I don't want to have children today, it's a great decision because she's actually getting one thing off her plate
Yes.
that can help her focus on something else better
Right.
rather than juggling 10 things together and making a mess of it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So you don't have to be the Devi Ma, the
Exactly.
with 6 hands or 12
Please,
hands anymore.
2 are enough. Let them be enough. Let them be enough because we were only born with 2 hands.
I get that visual again and again in content presentations again. I'm like, oh, my Devi Ma is back. I don't want to be like that today.
Right. So,
See, all the things which you're invested in, Shweta.
see,
this
today
is-
women are like, humko sab karna
Sab
hai and we
karna
want to be at
hai.
par and we are better than
Haan.
men.
Nahi
We are
karna hai.
not men.
We are
Simple.
not. We are not programmed like that.
So I think this whole concept about, we being at par with men or we should be equals. I'm not saying that equality is not about doing the same things. It's about having equal opportunities. But that doesn't mean that if you have the opportunity, you have to go all out for everything. You need to understand that we are not comparing ourselves to men.
Right.
We are trying to understand our own limitations and a set of circumstances and what our goals are.
Right.
And whether what we have on our plate is achievable. Now, if in the bid to achieve all that, you're losing your mental health, what are you gaining in the bargain?
Yeah.
So I feel that whether it's marriage, whether having children, or whether you want to pursue a career, or you want to do all of that,
Right.
you need to understand whether you have the support system.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, can you create it?
Yeah.
If not, do you have the bandwidth mentally? Physically, do you have the bandwidth? Because are you healthy enough to be productive and do all those things, right, without falling sick?
Right.
And then take a call as to how many things you want on your plate rather than going, all guns blazing in all directions and then landing up nowhere.
Nowhere. Yeah.
All that happens is that you get frazzled and you become a mental wreck
Right.
and you make a mess of everything.
Yeah.
So you really have to be clear, and it's not just about women, but even men. Eventually, it's about an individual
Yeah.
where we need to respect our individual limitations physically, mentally, financially, and then take a call as to how we want our lives,
Right.
to be planned and charted
Right.
out. And it is all about planning.
Right. I think one thing I've learned from you today is that to approach life holistically, right? It's not really about being passionate alone. It's also having a purpose, which is going to be long term, and having a support around that,
Yeah.
which is a must.
So, just to add to this, Shelja, I think even in terms of the social media, that's really, taking a toll on our mental health. I don't let an algorithm decide my happiness on any given day. Like I said, the social media platform is for me to express myself, and it's my voice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say exactly what I want to say because that's the reason I'm on it. And I would like to attract an audience that aligns with that
Right.
rather than change my tonality to find an audience that doesn't go with what I believe.
Right.
So I feel this is just an example, again, to stress on the fact that first be clear about what you want, and then that's what you will attract.
Thank
Right?
you. Such a beautiful
Yeah,
way of
because
putting
if you're
it.
going to change and move away largely from who you are,
Yeah.
chances are that you might still not get that crowd
Yeah.
in. You might not pull that audience,
Yeah.
but in the bargain, you've lost yourself.
Absolutely. And not sustainable. You have to
Exactly.
be
Just
real,
be who you are.
authentic.
Just be who you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let that voice reach out to as many people. Even if it's 5 people, it's fine because you're making a difference to 5 people's lives rather than having 5 million people who have not understood what you wanted to speak about.
Right. It's great having you on the show, Shweta, and
It was
and
wonderful
having such an
talking to you.
authentic voice. And your entire experience is going to enrich our listeners' life, I'm sure. Thank you for giving your time to us.
I'm so glad that we had this conversation today, Shelja. Thank you so much for having me.
And all the best for future.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks.